A woman expected a strong husband, but instead, she found a man who looked fragile and weak. She mocked him, dismissed him. Yet what was hidden inside that man would change their lives forever. We're just a few steps away from reaching 1,500 subscribers, and we'd be honored to have you with us. Thank you to every kind soul who's joined us so far. With your support, we share peaceful, heartfelt stories that warm the soul. If you enjoy calm, meaningful stories, don't forget to subscribe. You're part of this family now. Now, make yourself comfortable. It's time for the story. The snowstorm had covered the sky, the white blanket swallowing all silence. The wind howled with a deafening roar, yet there wasn't a trace of hesitation on Anna's face. She had lived alone for years, protecting her land and her animals all by herself, doing the heaviest work with her strong arms. She had built her own walls, learned to survive on her own. But this loneliness, after a while, turned into an emptiness that seeped deep inside. Because of that emptiness, months ago, she had agreed through letters to marry a man, had written to him, received replies. And now, she was waiting for him. The man Anna imagined was someone with stern eyes, broad shoulders, someone who could split wood with a single swing in winter. She dreamed of more than just a husband. She dreamed of a partner who would fight side by side with her. But when she saw the shadows approaching from the wagon road, she couldn't stop the anxiety rising in her chest. Because the first figure that appeared beside the wagon wasn't the mountain man she had pictured, but a slim, short man who looked more like a lost guest who had ended up here by mistake. As the wagon pulled into the snow, gunshots cut through the storm. Screams rose, and the white silence of the snow instantly filled with the stench of gunpowder. The passenger wagon had been ambushed. Shouts, the cries of horses, and voices filled with fear all mixed together. Without hesitation, Anna shouldered her rifle, spurred her horse, and charged toward the source of the bullets. She had never run from danger in her life. Even as a woman, she had learned to handle a gun, to ride a horse, and to endure the cold as well as any man. Though the snowstorm blinded her sight, she could still make out the shadows of the bandits, aiming at them one by one. She brought one down, scared off another. The cries of children inside the wagon pierced her heart. She had to save them. When she reached the wagon, the driver's lifeless body lay in the snow, stained red. Inside, the women and children were panicking, trying to get out, but the bandits were closing the circle. Anna pushed her horse forward, placing herself like a giant wall between the passengers and the attackers. Firing her rifle again and again, she forced the bandits to retreat in shock. They had never seen anything like this. A woman, alone in the middle of a storm, driving them back. Just then, a small figure stepped out of the wagon. Slim, short, cracked glasses on his face, a leather bag clutched tightly in his hands. His thin jacket was flapping in the wind, nearly tearing apart. Anna's eyes widened. This must be the husband sent to her through the letters. This fragile man, looking like he had stepped out of a book? Was this the one who had written those sweet words, those hopeful sentences? No, she thought. I asked them to send me a man. This one is so delicate. He could be blown over by the wind. But when their eyes met, what Anna saw there startled her for a moment. In his gaze, there was neither apology nor cowardice. Despite his frail body, he carried an unshakable calmness. Anna hid her surprise, but a bitter smile curved at the corner of her lips. So this is my husband, she thought. Then the bandits regrouped and attacked again. Anna pushed a wounded child from the wagon toward the man. Carry him, she ordered in a firm voice. Without hesitation, he scooped the child into his arms. His body trembled, he staggered, but he did not fall. Holding the child tightly, he moved behind Anna. Her brows furrowed. For the first time, she felt something different stir inside her. Behind that delicate frame, maybe there was a strength she hadn't expected. As the fight raged on, Anna kept firing bullets, while the man, still holding the child, tried to gather the other passengers. The storm howled. The bandits were forced to retreat. When silence finally fell, the surviving passengers still stared wide-eyed in fear. Anna stood tall beside them, and right across from her stood the slim, trembling, but upright man. He pressed his bag against his chest, and through the cracked lenses of his glasses, he was looking at her. Deep in her heart, Anna unwillingly asked herself a question. Maybe he isn't as weak as he looks? The storm hadn't stopped. Snow kept falling stubbornly from the sky, burying everything in white. Anna had gathered the survivors, leading them away from the shaken wagon and into the snowdrifts. The children's cries and the women's desperate whispers mixed with the lingering smell of gunpowder in the air. Anna's rifle rested ready on her shoulder. Her eyes kept scanning the horizon, calculating whether the bandits would come back. But in a corner of her mind, even though she didn't want to, she kept thinking about the man she had just met. Slim, timid-looking, but carrying the child without dropping him, with eyes shining more with determination than fear. The man's name was Lucas. The only thing he had brought with him on the journey was his old leather bag. The way he held it against his chest wasn't out of helplessness, but more like everything inside was the foundation of his life. Behind the cracked glass of his spectacles, his gaze stayed steady despite the cold. At first, Anna had thrown him a dismissive look. But what Lucas had just done, lifting the child, staying on his feet without falling, and doing it all without a single word, had unsettled Anna's thoughts. "Move," Anna ordered the survivors. Her voice was firm, but there was no fear in it. She was a woman who had lived alone for years, fighting storms and hungry wolves. The passengers clung to her voice. She felt like their only hope. Lucas, too, dragged his steps slowly but stubbornly after Anna. He carried the child in his arms, clutching his bag with his other hand. Every step in the snow was torture for him, but he didn't stop. After what felt like hours, Anna led the passengers toward her farm. In the middle of the storm, the wooden fences and the cabin in the distance looked like a fortress. When the exhausted people reached it, a spark of hope appeared in their eyes. Anna pushed open the heavy door and got everyone inside. As soon as they stepped in, the smell of wood, the warmth of the stove, and the light of the old lamp on the wall greeted them. The tired passengers collapsed onto the floor. The children wrapped themselves in blankets. Anna looked at the last one to enter, Lucas. Snow clung to his shoulders. His lips had turned purple, yet he still hadn't let go of his bag. When he stepped inside, he didn't put it on the ground but at his own feet. As he stretched his hands toward the fire, Anna noticed his fingers trembling. They were thin fingers, made for holding books, not swinging axes or tying ropes. Still, he didn't complain, not even once say it's too cold. For a while, there was silence. As everyone caught their breath, Anna's eyes kept drifting to Lucas. At that moment, the man opened his bag and pulled out a small book. In the light of the fire, through his cracked glasses, he slowly began to read. His voice was thin but calm. The children, the mothers, even Anna went quiet for a moment. Outside, the storm howled, but inside, the words cut through the noise like a blade, slipping straight into hearts. Anna hadn't heard anyone read a book in years. The calmness in his voice made her forget her fatigue for a moment. But the peace didn't last long. Suddenly, they heard the dogs barking outside. Anna stiffened instantly. Her hand went to her rifle, and she moved toward the window. When she looked out, she saw shadows appearing in the darkness. Her heart clenched. The bandits had returned. The storm had covered their tracks, but coming back for revenge was inevitable. "We're not safe here," Anna whispered to herself. Then she turned to Lucas. He was looking at her, not with fear, but with a calmness that felt almost accepting. He had already closed his bag and pulled closer to the fire. In that moment, Anna felt this man was different from how he looked. No matter how weak he seemed, there was a resistance inside him. She headed to the door, slung her rifle over her shoulder. "If they come, we'll fight," she said firmly. The passengers were frozen in fear. Some were crying, some were praying. But Lucas stood up. He closed his bag, and with heavy steps came to stand beside Anna. Maybe he was trembling from fear, but there was a strange light in his eyes. "I'll help you," he said quietly. There was such determination in his voice that Anna frowned. This small, slim man, was he really intending to fight by her side? And at that moment, something stirred inside Anna. Maybe, for the first time, she realized she wasn't alone. But danger was at the door. The storm roared. The shadows grew clearer beyond the fence. The bandits' vow of revenge echoed in Anna's ears. She whispered to herself, "The real test is only just beginning." Night had fallen over the cabin like a heavy blanket. Inside, the only sound was the crackle of the stove, but from outside came the howl of the wind and, every now and then, a noise like metal scraping that made everyone's hearts tighten. Anna stood guard at the door, rifle in hand. Her eyes were locked on the darkness. Having lived alone for years, she could tell what a sound meant instantly. The tracks of heavy boots pressing into snow, the breathing of horses nearby, the breaths of men waiting in ambush. Her senses were so sharp that even the restless shuffling of the passengers behind her felt irritating. The firelight lit up Lucas's face. With trembling fingers, he had opened his old leather bag and pulled out a small pistol. Its barrel was rusty, its wooden grip worn. Lowering his voice, he stepped closer to Anna. "I've carried this for years, but I've never used it. If it comes to it, teach me." For a moment, those words broke the silence inside Anna. She fixed her eyes on his thin, delicate hands, fingers that looked more used to holding a pen than a weapon. But in his eyes, she didn't see begging. Even with fear, there was a determined steadiness. Anna nodded, almost against her will. "Hold it tight," she said, short and firm. She showed him how to pull the trigger, how to steady his breath. At first his hands shook, but with each breath he grew steadier, calmer. Anna surprised herself. This man was much tougher than he looked. Inside that thin body was a will that had been mocked, belittled for years, but still stood straight. As the night dragged on, the wind grew even harsher. The shadows outside felt closer now. A child whimpered. A woman began to pray. Lucas quietly went to them, saying a few soft words. No one caught exactly what he said, but the child stopped crying, and the woman lowered her trembling hands. Watching this, Anna felt a warmth in her chest she couldn't explain. Yes, she was strong, but his strength was different. It calmed silenced fears, seeped into the heart like peace. At that very moment, a blow hit the door. The boards rattled, the passengers screamed. Anna snapped her rifle up, but the door didn't give way. Outside came laughter. A voice, cold and mocking, shouted, "Did you forget us, woman? Your land will be ours. You shamed us. Now you'll pay for it." Anna knew that voice, the bandit leader with the deep scar on his face. She had seen him before at the wagon. Anna stepped toward the door and shouted back firmly, "This is mine. It won't belong to you or anyone else." Her words tore through the night. Then she pushed her rifle out the window and fired into the air. The bullet split the dark, the frightened whinnies of horses echoed. For a few seconds there was silence, then mocking laughter rose again. They weren't leaving. They were waiting. Lucas came to Anna's side. His shoulders slumped, but his eyes glowed. "They're waiting to kill us. There's nowhere to run. But I'm with you." His words struck Anna's heart like an arrow. No one had said something like that to her in years. She felt the walls of her loneliness crack. But this wasn't the time. Now they had to be ready to fight. All through the night, blows hit the door and the windows now and then. The children trembled. The women whispered prayers. Anna didn't sleep for a second. Neither did Lucas. He held that little pistol in his hand and stayed by her side. They both knew. This was only the beginning. When the first light of morning pierced the darkness, the storm had eased a little. But when Anna stepped outside, what she saw froze her inside. A piece of red cloth hanging from the fence. The bandit's sign. "We're here. We'll be back at night." The message was clear. Anna picked up the cloth and crushed it in her hands. Then she looked at Lucas. Fear showed on his thin face, but he didn't step back. He walked up to her and whispered quietly, "Then we'll get ready." In that moment, Anna understood. This fight was not only for her land, but also for the fragile bond she had just begun to build with this man who looked so weak. She was no longer alone. All day long, the sky hung like a gray curtain, and the air grew heavier. Snowflakes kept falling without pause, and the silence became almost suffocating. But inside Anna's heart, there was no silence. The image of the red cloth left hanging on the fence was still in her mind. That sign was not only a warning of danger coming closer, but also a symbol of the certainty of battle. The bandits would keep their word and return at night. There was no choice but to prepare. Early in the morning, Anna went to the barn to check the animals. The horses were restless. They seemed to sense the storm that was approaching. They neighed loudly, scraping against the walls. As Anna tried to calm them, a faint shadow appeared over her shoulder. It was Lucas. His thin body looked swallowed inside a thick coat, but there was determination in his eyes. In his hand, he still carried that little pistol. "Tell me what I need to do," he said, his voice shaky but firm. Anna tilted her head slightly. Normally, words like that would earn nothing but a mocking smile from her. But Lucas's gaze showed that he meant it. So she didn't mock him. Instead, She pointed to an old axe in the barn. Split the wood. We can't stay cold for long. The fire must always burn. When Lucas took the axe in his hands, his first swing was laughable. The axe veered to the side, hitting the ground instead of the log. His thin wrist shook. Anna let out a deep sigh. Not like that, she said. Then she stepped beside him, took his hands, and showed him how to hold it properly. The closeness between them quickened both their hearts without them realizing. Lucas repeated what she showed him, this time doing a little better. The log didn't split completely, but at least there was effort. All day, Anna taught him small tasks. How to tie a rope, how to check the animal's water, how to stack the boards for a barricade. Lucas failed at most, hurt his hands on some, his fingers bruised and bled. But he never gave up. Every time, he tried again. That stubbornness both surprised Anna and, deep inside, moved her. Because after years of living alone, this was the first time she had seen someone show such resistance just to stay by her side. By evening, the cabin was quiet. The passengers and children had withdrawn to the corners. The fire crackled. Anna sat by the door, cleaning her rifle. Lucas sat by the stove, scribbling something into his old notebook. The cracked glass of his glasses caught the firelight, leaving half his face in shadow. Curious, Anna went over to look. Inside the notebook were shaky but neat writings. Short sentences, small sketches. What is this? Anna asked. Lucas gave a shy smile. My thoughts. My dreams. I can't stop writing. Maybe one day it'll be a book. Maybe not. As Anna turned the pages, she came across a drawing of a house he dreamed of. Beside it was the figure of a woman. Broad-shouldered, strong-looking. The woman's eyes had been drawn with care. When Anna realized the face resembled her own, her heart began to race. She snapped the notebook shut and handed it back sharply. This won't help us survive, she said coldly. But inside, an unspoken warmth was spreading. Just then, a sound came from outside. The hooves of horses striking the snow. First one, then three, then more. Slowly getting closer. The passengers jumped up in panic. The children started crying. Anna rushed to the door, grabbing her rifle. Her heart hardened. The moment had come. From beyond the door came a sinister laugh. A familiar voice, the scarred bandit leader. Are you ready, woman? Tonight you either give up your land or your life. His voice echoed, draining the color from the passengers' faces. But Anna's eyes blazed with fire. You can't take what's mine, she shouted. At that moment, Lucas came beside her. His hands trembled, but he raised his pistol. Their eyes met. Lucas gave a silent nod. In that look, Anna saw the will hidden behind his frail body. For the first time, she felt she wasn't alone. Outside, the hooves came closer, shadows gathered around the fence. The men's laughter and threats echoed through the snow. The passengers cowered into corners, trembling. Anna raised her rifle to her shoulder, and beside her, Lucas clutched his pistol tightly. The storm howled. The night sank into pitch blackness. And then, after the silence, the first gunshot rang out. The night was shattered by the gunshot that exploded in front of the door. The passengers screamed. The children clung to their mother's arms. Anna, moving with cold-blooded calm, looked out through the window. The shadows in the dark were armed men, slowly approaching on their horses. At the front sat the scarred bandit leader. His eyes burned with hatred that glowed even in the moonlight. He raised his hands and shouted, I'll say this one last time, woman. Step aside, open your door, and we'll spare your life. Otherwise, we'll burn this place to the ground. A mocking laugh slipped from Anna's lips. Did they really think they could frighten her? She set her rifle against her shoulder, took aim, and fired the first shot. A bandit toppled from his horse and sank into the snow. That was the signal. Suddenly, gunfire filled the air, the darkness cloaked in gunpowder smoke. Windows shattered. The door shook under heavy blows. Inside the cabin, chaos erupted. Lucas clutched his small pistol with trembling hands. He moved to Anna's side. Her eyes blazed with fury, and every time she fired, another enemy fell back. Lucas held his breath, aimed the way Anna had taught him. His first shot trembled, the bullet lost in the dark. But with the second, he hit the shoulder of a man trying to crawl through the window. The bandit screamed and fell back. Lucas's heart pounded wildly. The power of the gun scared him, yet for the first time he felt a spark inside. Despite his fear, he had resisted. The cabin quickly turned into a battlefield. Anna flipped a table with one hand, making a barricade. With the other, She reloaded her rifle, firing whenever she got the chance. A bandit who climbed through the window was kicked down by Anna, then knocked out with the butt of her gun. She fought with all her strength, like an army all on her own. But the enemies outside were endless. The wooden boards of the door began to crack, the hinges to break. The passengers prayed in terror, clutching their children through tears. When Lucas saw this, something else rose inside him. At that moment, he felt not only his own fear, but the responsibility of protecting these people too. As he fired his last bullet, he turned to Anna. "The door's going to break. We have to stop them." Anna shut her eyes tight, making a quick plan. She looked at the barrel of oil by the stove. "We'll use fire," she hissed through her teeth. Quickly, she filled a bottle, made a fuse. Just as the door was about to split, she lit the fuse and hurled it outside the window. In an instant, the night flared with fire. The horses reared in panic. The bandits were forced back. Screams rose, mixing with the roar of fire in the snow. But it was only a short breath of relief. Their leader was still there, the only one who hadn't retreated. He dismounted, heavy steps crunching across the snow toward the cabin. The scarred grin on his face was terrifying. He raised his weapon and struck the door open with a single blow. The door crashed inward. The passengers screamed. Anna tried to raise her rifle, but it was empty. Her bullets were gone. It all happened in seconds. The bandit leader stepped inside, his eyes locking on Lucas. With a mocking laugh, he sneered, "This is your husband? This weakling? I'll kill him right in front of you, and then it'll be your turn." He lifted his gun. Time froze. Anna was about to leap, but Lucas moved first. He knew his pistol was empty, yet he still raised it to the leader's face. His eyes were filled not with fear, but with resolve. "You won't touch her," he said, his voice strong. The bandit leader laughed, pulled the trigger. The bullet tore past Lucas, splintering the beam behind the door. In that instant, Anna lunged forward, swinging her rifle like a club against the man's hand. His weapon fell to the floor. With a roar of rage, he threw himself at her, his massive body driving her back. For a moment she staggered, but she fought back at once. They grappled fiercely. Lucas saw the fallen gun on the ground. His heart hammered. He reached for it, fingers closing around the grip. His eyes flicked from Anna to the man's massive frame. He steadied his breath, pulled the trigger. The bullet struck the bandit's chest. The scarred man stumbled, then collapsed to the floor. Silence filled the cabin. Outside, the bandits saw their leader fall and fled in panic, their shouts fading into the storm. Inside, there was only the sound of heavy breathing, quiet sobs of children, and the crackle of the fire. Anna, covered in sweat and blood, turned to Lucas. His thin body shook. The gun slipped from his fingers to the floor. But in his eyes, for the first time, there was something different, the stance of a man. Anna stepped slowly toward him, placed her hand on his shoulder. "You did this," she whispered. Lucas, exhausted but steady, shook his head. "No, we did this together." At that moment, Anna felt the walls around her heart begin to break. For the first time, she truly accepted she was no longer alone. But in the corner of her eyes, doubts still lingered. This battle was over, but the future promised even greater dangers. The cabin still smelled of gunpowder. The wooden door was broken, the windows shattered, and on the floor remained streaks of blood mixed with snow. On the passengers' faces lingered the dull shadows of fear, but in their eyes was the stunned joy of survival. The children cried quietly in their mother's arms, while the women whispered prayers of thanks. Anna was still standing, clutching her rifle tightly, her eyes scanning outside. But there were no bandits anymore. Only the howl of the storm and the fading sound of hooves remained. Anna took a deep breath. Her body felt heavy, and the cut on her shoulder had started to bleed. But she didn't feel the pain. Her eyes were fixed on Lucas. His thin body still trembled, his forehead wet with sweat. Yet those trembling hands had just faced death, raised the gun, and pulled the trigger. The man she had once dismissed as weak had stood by her side and saved her life. "We need to bandage your wound right away," Lucas said, stepping toward her. His voice held no fear, only determination. He picked up the bag that had fallen to the floor, took out strips of cloth and a small bottle. He touched her wounded shoulder carefully. Anna instinctively tried to pull her hand away from his. But Lucas's eyes were calm, and though his hands shook, he was precise. In that moment, Anna's hardness broke. "Let me," Lucas said. I know you've done these things on your own for years, but you're not alone anymore. Those words pierced Anna's heart like a blade. She blinked, but couldn't hide the emotion on her face. For the first time in years, someone had seen her loneliness. Silently, she allowed him. Lucas wrapped the wound, tied her shoulder tight. As the pain eased, Anna let out a deep breath. "Thank you," she said softly. The words felt strange to her. She was a woman who had forgotten how to say thank you. By morning, the storm had eased. The sky was still gray, but weak sunlight filtered through the snow. The passengers prepared to leave. Most of them, with tears in their eyes, thanked Anna and looked at Lucas with respect. No one mocked the thin man standing at the woman's side anymore, because what they had seen that night was courage. When the passengers set off, only Anna and Lucas remained in the cabin. The silence was heavy. Anna stood at the door, looking at the broken fences. This land was still full of danger. More bandits, more storms would come. That was the truth. For years she had faced it alone, with her rifle on her shoulder. But now she looked at the man beside her. He was still thin, his glasses still crooked, his books still never leaving his bag. Yet in Anna's eyes, he was no longer the same. Lucas sat by the stove, notebook open. He scribbled new lines onto the pages. Anna quietly went to him. When she looked, she saw words about the night. Whoever walks through fear finds true courage. Strength is not always in muscle. Sometimes it's in a heart that refuses to give up. Anna's chest tightened. She stayed silent for a while, then whispered, Why did you come here? Why risk all this danger?" Lucas closed his notebook, his eyes meeting hers. "Because your letters made me feel, for the first time, that I could change my life. I was always mocked, belittled, but in your words there was strength. I came to find it. And when I found you, I decided I wouldn't run anymore." Those words sank deep into Anna's heart. Beneath her hard shell, the old wounds long hidden began to ache. She looked away for a moment, but the words slipped from her lips. "I belittled you too. I see now I was wrong. I thought I needed a man to protect this land. But they sent me you. And you're far stronger than I imagined." In that moment, the two of them drew closer. The firelight lit their faces. Anna's hardened features and Lucas's delicate lines, side by side, didn't clash, they completed one another. In the silence of the night, Anna felt, for the first time, that she was not alone. The thin man who lived with books was, in truth, the companion she had been waiting for all these years. Storms, bandits, hardships would still come, but it no longer mattered, because they had both understood the same truth. Life doesn't always give what you expect. It gives what you need. And Anna felt, for the first time in her life, that she had opened herself to the right person. By the way, we noticed something small. Most people who watch these stories aren't actually subscribed to the channel. Maybe we get caught up in the moment, or just forget to hit the button. But your support truly helps us keep creating stories like this. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel.